What's up, Coach Jay here from the Empire Boxing Podcast. Reminder that the Takeover is coming up November 12th. It is a live-only in-person show. There will be no pay-per-view. So that means you got to get your tickets now and show up to cheer on the Canadian athletes performing in this fight. Don't miss the Takeover.
An Empire Boxing and Unlearning Network production.
Welcome back to the Empire Boxing Podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and tonight we have River Tucker in the house, and she's going to be making her pro debut on our upcoming event, the Takeover, November 12th. River, we're super stoked to have you in, and I'm just going to pump your tires here for a second. River is the Western Canadian champion. She's a two-time Canadian national champ, founder of the Functional Fitness East Van group, right? And then she's a coach at Quinit Boxing Club and founder of Queer Camp Boxing Vancouver. Welcome. What don't you do?
I'm not the national champs. It's bronze. It's
Bronze.
2 times bronze.
Hey, she's on the podium. That's what matters.
The tire goes.
Yeah, that's okay. But the fact that you have all these boxing accomplishments, like you're a name that I've been hearing since I entered boxing in Vancouver, maybe 2017, 18, something like that. I've had the pleasure of seeing you compete. I believe it was the last time. I'm sure you've competed since then, but I think I saw you at the Vancouver Club. Is that correct? Yeah. So that was what, 2019, 2020?
2018.
2018? Yeah, because I think I remember. I think I remember. It was a classy. Everyone was wearing dresses, black tie. It was a really sweet event.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So so I've even had the pleasure of watching you compete, and you've got grit and real talent and tenacity. So we were super excited for your pro debut. Now. Was going pro something you always wanted to do, or is this kind of like a late dawn-on moment?
Well, I've been thinking about it for a few years now.
Okay.
Yeah. So the original plan was to go pro the summer of 2020, and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has been in the making, so I'm very excited that it's happening now.
Amazing. Now, tell us a little bit about your amateur experience. You've had how many fights?
Just under 60, so like 58 plus 3 in Germany that I actually never counted. So yeah, just around
those
60.
Cheeky, yeah. Pads the record with the cheeky underground German ones. Nice. Okay, cool. And what year did you start boxing? How did that begin in your life?
I entered a boxing program at the university in Berlin.
Okay.
And that was like 2006 maybe.
Okay.
And there was this like old school boxing coach who was like, "Hey kid, you want to fight? You look really good." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll come a little bit more." And then we talk about fighting.
Yeah.
And I just kind of fell in love with the intensity, and it was just very nonchalant. I just like, "Oh, boxing, there you are. I love you." The end.
Right. Was that from moment one? First time in the gym, you're like, "Oh, there's something here."
Yeah. And I had also signed up for inline hockey, and then it just kind of like, I just came back to boxing. It
fizzled because boxing was there. Yeah. Amazing. What about boxing drew you in right away, do you think?
I think the intensity, like just that you have to use your whole body, and I just loved it.
Right. And then how far from kind of that point where their coach was like, hey kid, do you want to fight? How long was it till your first match?
Probably less than a year. And it wasn't with him, actually, unfortunately. I went to the university championship something in Germany, and had my first fight, and also sort of without a coach, which then became like
rogue.
Which became with like a stand-in coach. But yeah, our coach was gone actually in Canada at the time, so kind of all odd. And yeah, it became like a theme in my boxing career. It's like, I want to fight, and I'm just gonna go, even though I don't have a coach with me. So yeah.
Is this, so it's kind of like, it's a little bit fearless. Would you consider yourself to be a pretty bold, fearless individual?
Looking back, I'm like, whoa, that was, wow.
You're surprising yourself.
I'm like, I don't know whether I should have done that.
I'm kind of a badass, I guess. All right. And when you had your first match, if you can remember kind of the feelings you had, did it sort of solidify that, okay, I love this and I want to do more of this? Or were you like, oh man, that was like more or less kind of intense than I thought it was going to be? Or what was your first experience like?
I know. I remember my first fight. Sometimes I tell my boxing students, and I'm like, I was just bouncing the entire time.
Yeah.
So whenever I see newbies and they create that rhythm, I'm like, you don't need that rhythm. Like you will create a rhythm, but you don't need to like bounce.
Yes. Not only is it super energy draining, but it also doesn't allow you to plant and have kind of any sort of power balance.
Yeah.
But it's true that newbies and I think that's because there's a message that's sent to people when they enter boxing. It's like, stay on your toes, but that's taken very much out of context. And you do get, and then you get this nervous energy translating through that on my toes. And next thing you know, it looks like it's boxing on a trampoline or something like that.
People rocking back and forth, up and down. I was like very much like for like 3 minutes. At that time, women were still, or again, doing 3-minute rounds. And I was like, oh, that's not bad. But it was all right.
And then after that first one, you're like, oh, this is it. I want to do this.
But I was very invested in journalism at the time. So I was like in journalism school in Berlin, and I had to make a decision, and I chose at that time journalism. Because journalism is very similar. It's not physical, but it's just very like all or nothing. At one point, I think like I had 3 fights, and one of the fights, like my 4th fight, I had to cancel because I was like in school 120%, and I was training like 110%, and I was like, it's too much. Something's got to go. So at that time it was boxing. But
now, were you able to kind of pull yourself out of like a burnout phase, or did you actually hit kind of a burnout at that time?
No burnout at the time. That was
you were pretty
way
aware.
later.
Okay. So you've been through that, because that's when you're balancing, I feel like the amateur phase, it's funny, like we think about pro as sort of the next level, but amateur boxing, like there's so much volume involved in that. Like pro, you're fighting every like few months, or more. And in amateur, like you got to be ready to fight like every weekend. So that like, I think the burnout rate in amateur, I'm surprised. I think it's like, you got to get into it young, because I'm surprised it's not really higher it is, or it's just not really spoken about with these young athletes.
Yeah. I often actually tell my teammates on like the high performance team when they're like hitting the bag after a 2-hour workout, and I'm like, it's done, but I want to do really well at the next competition. I'm like, yes, and you will, but you gotta, now is rest time, and I gotta adjust these.
Well, they're sliding. We were just talking about before the show, we have like little heads over here. So I'm like, the hat is sort of a cheat code. Right, because I think last week too was sliding. I'm like, my hair is everywhere. Yeah. Anyways, so you're entering this next chapter of your boxing career. You're going pro, and then you're also coaching at the same time. So you have all this amateur knowledge and experience throughout your amateur career to kind of give to these young athletes. Do you love coaching? Like, does that really fulfill you as well?
I do love coaching. I have always prioritized like my own fighting career. Like I never extended like the amount of classes I'm teaching. Like I always kept it, like with Queer Box Camp, I kept it as like, everything. Like you can only do so much, right? Same with journalism school, something had to go. So I've always prioritized instead of growing the business. On my own club, I just invested in myself, and I kept it at 3 classes. And, Vancouver's not a giant city, and like queer community is not giant either. So I was like, 3 is good, right? And now I'm teaching at Quinit, which is awesome, early in the morning, 7 a.m. So.
Yeah. Nice. Hey, shout out to Quinit Boxing Club as well, because, I think I was in Los Angeles when I saw John kind of open his space, and I've had the pleasure of going there and sparring a couple of times and hanging out and seeing what they're doing. And it's just, what you guys are doing over there, it's just amazing. It's definitely sort of the premier boxing club, I think, in Vancouver at the time, and watching the growth of that, especially even just like more of the world start to see what Quinit's doing and what you all are doing over there is just really powerful. And I think it's doing such good things for the boxing community in Vancouver and in Canada. It's like such a well-organized, well-structured, and like so much boxing IQ at Quinit, or like so many coaches, and also just the structure and like what we get on the high-performance team, like the strength and conditioning, nutrition, like sports psychologists, like seminars and stuff. It's like usually it's like a microcosmos of what usually people get on the national team. Yes.
And sometimes with like younger boxers, I'm like, not younger, but like less experienced boxers, I'm like, I hope you know how special this is. You probably don't. But it's because that's where we run into trouble, like when you said overtraining or like burning out, right? Because we train too much, we don't rest enough, we don't have the guidance. We like, for example, I once like had strength and conditioning training on the side, but it wasn't coordinated with my boxing coach. So I like did strength and conditioning as I was just like lifting, and then I was running just as if I was running, and then I was boxing, and just as I was boxing, and then it added up to these like 300%, which I think was like in 2015, 2016, and it kind of stuck with me for a long time. Like I was like, after a while, like 2018, I kept getting sick. Like, oh, I have a competition, I'm gonna go back, and then I did, but then I got sick, and I couldn't like run through that season again. And so like I really appreciate like how Quinit Boxing is run and structured, and like it's just kind of awesome. Yeah,
I think it's cool. We had the privilege of having Tarek on not long ago, and he was talking about the components of the high performance team, and we were kind of just shooting the shit about the idea that having all those things as part of of an athlete's program, you need your S&C, so you need your strength work, but you need different phases of camp to be executed and expressed through the strength work, and you need your conditioning, again, different phases of it. You need your technical work, and then you need your sparring and different intensities at different phases. But kind of trying to do that without sort of a formula or a system, and it just ends up being scrambled eggs, and it will crush an athlete's ability to peak, have a successful camp, weight cut, and continue to perform well throughout their season. So it is really, really important. And I love where boxing is going with that now, shifting into a place where we do have all these people with different skill sets and knowledge, working together as a community to create the best experience for athletes' longevity through their careers. Right?
Well, because that's the thing, right? You can do it for a season. You can probably do it for a second season, but the question is, do you want to stay in it longer? Like the pandemic, to be honest, like it really like gave me so much fire because my body actually needed some rest. Like, because how much rest do we take?
Especially when the opportunity is there not to.
Right? So a month is like forever. Like 3 months is like forever times 3, and that's sometimes our body just needs to not train like twice a day or even every day, just one, like it's just how it goes. Like the way I think about, aging, and I heard you in other podcasts talk about like, oh, like now athletes can like train longer, and like the Olympics have like athletes like into their 40s, right? But it's only if it's a well-managed program, and now we know, but it's also the accumulation of stress. Right? So the accumulation of stress, like how many years have you been competing? How many fights are that? Like I had years where I had 16 fights each year, but abroad or like back east. So I had so much traveling, and I would come back, and then I'd be like, and now I'm going to go and teach again because I took time off being away for competition, and it just adds up, right?
It's really hard. So maybe you can kind of speak to this, because it is really hard to balance, and this is something I've struggled with too personally, is competitive training and competitive season and being in the coaching world. Like if you're even just like a simple thing, like I'm, moving around weight plates and racking and unracking, putting away barbells and cleaning and spending that like intense one-on-one time that just really does quite drain you a bit. Never mind holding pads and all that stuff. And then trying to put in, 2 hours a day of training of your own. It's like, how do you manage that for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I love it because I feel like I'm just like breathing boxing. Right. I don't have to be at an office and then train before I go.
You're in the deep end all day.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. So I don't go train before my office job and then I have to train again. I kind of feel that would be like a lot. But you're right, it's a lot. Like I had times where I'm like, oh, I won't be holding pads right now. I have a little bit of an injury like years ago, it's a lot, like physically and also mentally, because even all the talking, like, our cortisol goes up, it's draining. And then I'm like, I remember doing classes for CAT at Quinit, and it was like 4 classes in a row, and I was like,
toasted after. Absolutely toasted. Yeah, I think especially if you're a really engaged and energetic individual, like you go full send. Yeah. Like I don't know how to do it if I'm not going full send. And then, I remember that back in the days teaching classes too, I'm like, well, at one class I'm toasted, 2 I'm toasted, like you definitely, you realize that there is an impact of those things, even though it's not what you would classify as training. So, but was that by design? Like, were you like, hey, I just want to like make my life like exactly what I want to make it and be around the things that I love all the time? Was that intentional, or did you fall into it?
I mean, it was my partner who had the idea for a queer box camp, because I was kind of transitioning. I had moved from Germany to Canada. I was born here, But, I was like completely raised in Canada, in Germany. So I was like, oh, I'm this like weird Canadian with a passport who doesn't know anything about Canada.
Right, right.
But yeah, so anyway, I moved here, and at one point my partner had the idea, and I was like, oh yeah, cool idea. Because now when media asked me, they were like, oh, what's the need? Like, how did you come up with it and give people a home? And I'm like, I didn't see a need. But then I saw people come and I heard their stories, right? So stories of, and I actually started as fitness boxing in the park, just like, I'll do this for the summer, awesome. And, a bit of cash, that's it.
Yeah.
And then I was approached by people who were like, oh, I always wanted to get into boxing, but as like a butch woman, as like a non-binary person. It was 10 years ago, so we didn't talk as much about non-binary, but like gender non-conforming, broadly speaking, right? I didn't want to go into a boxing club, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of boxing clubs where I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like,
yeah. Well,
sure.
I think boxing clubs can be really intimidating on multiple levels for many people.
And I think the fitness boxing part of it has changed it a lot, actually, that people make it into businesses more than we're volunteering our time and this is my house and my rules and, like kind of old school vibes, like old school vibes in like, the macho kind of way. There's good old school vibes, but
For sure. Yeah.
And so anyway, it just grew out of what people wanted. And I was like, oh, people keep coming. Let's, I guess, move somewhere indoors because the summer's over.
Yeah.
And
Short
that was
seasons over here on West Coast Canada.
That was like 11, 12 years ago. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's been growing and growing since then. Mm-hmm. What's next for that?
I mean, for now, I will just keep it that way because I'm still so invested in fighting.
Yeah, and I mean, you're entering a new chapter yourself.
And to see Quinit grow and like what John and Rebecca are putting into it and Adrian putting into it, I'm like, that's why I was always so clear about I'm doing my 3 classes because that's what you got to do. Or I don't know what, Peggy from Sam and Arms, she was talking about being pro, and then she was like, yeah, and then I stopped it because I had this opportunity to get this bigger space and grow my gym. Bam, that was it.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly, I was like, yeah, that's very validating because that's how I've always felt. I'm like, I keep it small, it's good, right?
Yes.
Like, don't overspend, and then I can fight.
That's cool because it just seems like you're so clear with what works for you and what doesn't, and creating those boundaries. But I'm guessing that was also trial and error, as it can be in life, right? You know, you kind of go through it, you realize you've overcommitted, you've taken on too much, and then the balls start dropping and you're like, oh my God. And then you burn out or you get sick or a season doesn't turn into what you really wanted it or hoped it to be. And then you recalibrate.
Yeah.
And you kind of start from scratch and you go, okay, well, what has to come off my plate?
Yeah.
Right. So going to this next chapter of, making your pro debut, how excited are you?
I'm so excited.
Yeah. And what kind of statement or are you wanting to make out there?
Just I just want to because I fought so much outside of BC. So I'm just going to own it. I'm going to show you all. And
I'm coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wicked.
Yeah, because I always felt a little bit sad about it. Like I felt I did what I wanted to. I went to Ringside World Championship. I went to Beautiful Brawlers, the all-female card in California many times. But it was always, I was like, oh, I can show you the video of my fight,
Yeah.
I felt like I was a bit too separate from what's going on here, while other people were competing at home and stuff like that. But yeah, now I'm so excited to be on the card. I'm so excited that I don't have to go somewhere else to do to have my first pro fight. So yeah, I'm just really excited.
Wicked. Now, what was some of the major differences that you experienced kind of being fighting in Germany to Canada?
I mean, I only had 3 fights in Germany, but I did definitely change my entire style. Because it's a more square, that European. It was the old scoring system too, right? The tap, tap, tap on the head and no body shots and stuff like that. The Europeans are now changing as well. It was very different, very different.
Right.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about working with John Quinit. How has that evolved your boxing game?
It's I've been growing so much. It's so awesome. I love it. Yeah. I mean, I've seen him around. I even remember going to spar. You remember Jamie used to have the female sparring?
On Sundays, yeah.
Yeah. And for a long time, actually, people don't remember it or don't give her credit for it. I'm we've been having things going on for a long time, and Jamie was a big part of that.
Absolutely. Shout out Jamie Ward. Yeah.
And anyway, I remember him I was sparring without a coach, and and I remember
Legend.
him giving me tips, and so I knew of him when we had met and everything, and yeah, I mean, he only opened Quinit like almost 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm so glad he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went to nationals. My last nationals was with his brother. I actually recently found like a little memory. I'm like, oh my God, the world is so small, full circle.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I kept getting like Instagram ads. That's how our life is. And
Yes.
and I was like, oh, okay, well, not right now. And then when I was ready with the pandemic to be like, okay, because I was very intentional during the pandemic. I was very intentional. I was like, my body also needs rest. I just need to
How do I use this time?
How
for
do
me?
exactly? I was like, it won't look like, oh, I'm this intense, blah, 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 and I'm like still doing all these things. But
Yeah.
I was like, I got to be smart about this. Like, I got to take this as an opportunity.
Right.
And I like stopped weighing myself and all those things. Because it all adds up. It's all like
course.
stress,
Yeah.
right? And just or not even stress, but just to like detach a little bit from the routine. Because I was like, even if I don't know it, like I need to give my body like a bit of a chill. Like I just get like, just chill, you know? And I was like, what are all the things that could contribute? So when I was ready, I was like reaching out and, yeah, I even went to an assessment. You know, they have the tier system, and he was laughing, and he's like, "You don't need to be assessed. It's okay."
Yeah.
And then other people were like looking, like, "Why does she not have to be assessed?" And he's
Right.
like, "Oh, she has more fights than I have." So, yeah, and yeah, we just clicked right away, and yeah, it was he's just a really good coach,
Yeah.
and the whole team, like it's good to have like a good coach, but it's also really nice to have like that like awesome team feeling and like family feeling and
Yeah.
like just it's just really cool.
Well, I think with that kind of environment, it really flows top down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the precedent is set of, you know, how people feel when they come in the gym.
Yeah.
What are our standards? You know, what is sort of the vision? You know, how are people respected? What's the community like? And it really flows from the top down. So it speaks a lot to kind of the value system that they have. And
Yes.
you can see it when you go. Every time I've gone, I've been like mega impressed.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, talk to us about your opponent. What kind of style do you approach when you're going into a camp? Do you study? Does John study? Do you guys communicate that, or you just do what John says and put your head down and work? What kind of approach do you take? Because I've heard many.
I have gone towards I just gonna do what he says.
Right.
But that's, I think, a long journey for some people in boxing.
Right, because you're on their Instagram account, you're scrolling, you've already made your mind up about what they're like before you've even gone in the ring with them.
Yeah, no, I haven't done any of that. Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. But I used to, also probably because I had, you know, not as coaches that weren't as present, could do like a whole psychology seminar on that. Yeah, so I've done like a lot by myself, right? I'm studying, I'm like Beautiful Brawlers, I'm like messaging them and they're like, oh, okay, cool. You really seem to want to fight, so we'll give you a fight. Like, who are you? And now we're super close. But yeah, anyway, now I'm just like, if John says we spar 6 rounds, I spar 6 rounds. And if he says, oh, we got to take it easy today, then I take it easy. Like, you know, I'm gone out of I have to control everything and think about everything, which is quite beautiful, actually.
Okay, I was just going to ask you, is that a challenge or are you embracing it?
I mean, I think I've developed towards it, so
Right.
it's not a challenge anymore, but generally, yeah, it used to be a challenge.
And
yeah.
it also speaks a little bit to trust. Right.
Yeah.
It's like if you didn't have that relationship or that trust in John too, you'd probably be clinging on to the last grains of sand, like trying to hold on to the bit of that control. And now you can just relax and be the athlete. You don't have to be the coach and the athlete.
Correct.
It's an interesting, path is that, we've run, I believe, we were talking to Javon, who was Benit's opponent in our last fight. He was doing the athlete coach, combo. And that's a hard line to walk. That's a hard line to walk. I think at a certain point, you want to relinquish that into a team, right? And you want to relinquish that control into a coach and in your corner, or the people that are around you that support you. Because it's really hard to do those two roles very well. Because being an athlete is 110%.
Yeah.
So if you've already spent 110, like it's quite hard to fill that with a coaching role, which is also, 110%.
Absolutely.
So now, if not boxing, what would it have been for you? Journalism? Do you ever think about it? Do you ever pine?
Yeah, sometimes. I always loved it. When you're like, my first love. Like I was 16, like reporting for a local paper, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And it's weird to be like, oh, I didn't change my mind. I changed course. Like I just had to make a decision in Canada. Do I invest in building up again? Because I was reporting a little bit for like freelancing for German media, and then I would be like up until like, you think you're like, oh, I send it to you in the morning. It's like my midnight, and then I was like, it's okay. And then you're like, oh, a few questions, and then I go to bed at 2:30, and and the stories in the end are not super interesting because you're the foreign correspondent. So it has like a German spin. I'm like, what's the German spin now? Going to Stanley Park. It's like, oh, Bratwurst at Stanley Park, and so I was like, okay, am I going to transition into English speaking media in Canada, which is an investment again, and school here is like crazy expensive. It's horrible.
Yeah, Canada.
It is. Yeah. Just because the US is worse, Canada, you're also pretty bad.
It's just we're trying to one up them,
Yeah, Canada is pretty bad. But anyway, otherwise I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. If I could make a few suggestions.
But what did I want to say? Yeah, journalism. Yeah, sometimes it's like a little like, but it feels good because I mean, it wasn't like one hard decision of like I'm mapping out my career as a boxer. It's it kind of went that way, and I was like, no, I want to give it like 100%. And there were some other like personal challenges after I moved here, and so I was like, oh, it works way better not being in an office, and just like focusing on boxing. And sometimes the second love is where it's at. It's like. Yeah.
So do you write creatively as sort of like, do you use it as like a stress tool or anything in your personal life?
No.
Interesting. What kind of like releases do you have that aren't boxing related?
I actually did more like radio and video. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say because you actually like you're smashing it. You're really natural. You were nervous on the microphone. Nothing.
I always wanted to be a host, so.
Okay.
But then I didn't. So.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we launch a spin-off podcast. I want your job. Yeah, you can have it. It's okay. All right, I'm going to launch my own podcast. It's called Jana Speaks About Things She Doesn't Like. I can't tell you what I like, but I can tell you what I don't like. I'm just kidding. Now, okay, this is kind of a fun question. So this is going to be your matchmaker debut. Mm-hmm. Okay, you are Golden Boy Promotions, whatever, name one. What would be your fantasy match?
Oh, my fantasy
match? 2
match?
boxers from any span in time, history. Who would you match up? Who would you want to sit ringside
I'm the matchmaker?
for? You're the matchmaker.
Okay, let me have a think.
Yeah, she can have a think. Have a little sip. It could be anyone in history or present.
Oh, okay. One would be Lucia Riker.
Okay.
But
Versus?
So now I have to find the same weight class. You can't
Screw it.
Oh, screw it. It's just fantasy.
This is fantasy.
Oh. I'm German, right? I'm always just like...
Yeah, what are the rules?
Yeah, down to earth, very literal.
Nah, screw the rules.
Oh, no, screw the rules. Shit. Fantasy.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lucia Riker, we got one.
Okay. And?
Okay, no weight class, right? No rules.
Get out of the box.
No rules.
We're out.
John always says, be free.
Be free.
Be free.
Be free. Is that why he wears slides and socks when he coaches? Is this part of John Quinit's
I have slides now.
Are you wearing slides and socks now too?
I'm wearing slides now for the first time in my athletic life. But they're the
John
the rip and dip slides.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Statement.
I should have.
You should have worn them.
Yeah,
they're not UFOs?
Oh man. Okay, so wait, we're going back to this question, but I got a tangent for a second. So did you watch the what was it?
Did.
Alicia.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're watching the stream, and there's this ad, and this company called UFOs.
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 Yeah, OOFOS.
Okay, so
brilliantly named.
Let's paint the picture. Oof. It's like the most hideous combination. Thank you. Thank you. The most hideous combination of like the croc.
Oh, yeah. she's doing an ad for it.
On, yeah.
How do they have the budget to put her on the roster? Like, she does this whole commercial. She's in an ice bath. She's submerging, and then she has her.
I saw it too.
I'm like, these are the most fucked up shoes.
She was so comfortable, though. She was so comfortable.
Was
so comfortable for her recovery. Yeah. For Alicia Brown partner's recovery.
I don't know. These were bad. Are people buy these? I've never heard one.
Well, now they are.
The
You're
prizes
talking
for
about
giveaways.
them.
I know. This is the
They're like,
impact.
boom, boom,
We
boom.
Yeah.
better get paid by UFOs.
I don't know. They're going to, I'm going to get some hate mail or something. One of these days, someone's going to get at me.
Okay, but back to women's boxing, because maybe it's not that expensive for them.
Maybe it's not, which
Yeah.
is UFOs. What was it? It's like an UGG Croc kind of sandal. It was horrible.
I was watching on my phone, but I was wondering the same thing.
Did it cross your mind? You're like, what is this shoe?
I'm like, it's gonna be ridiculous.
It was awful. It
Yeah.
was the worst. I'm like, I'm all for comfort, but you won't get me dead. It was like I don't know. Yeah, it was like memory foam, like pooped out the shoe, and it was just like debris. It was awful. Anyway, so back to, okay, so we got
Oh, Lucia Reika
versus
anybody.
anybody.
Then maybe Clarissa Shields.
Ooh.
I really like Clarissa Shields. I've been watching her since her first 2012 Olympics, and I love how she always leaves everything in the ring. Like, I remember 2012, the flyweight who won, you name shame her, I was kind of like, yeah, I got this, like, you could tell, you know. I'm like, this is like a gold medal match, excuse me.
Yeah.
And then Clarissa Shields was like, I'm fucking winning this. Like, I'm not leaving it to anybody. I mean, it's not a KO, so she's leaving it to the judges. But still, it's just that thing. And then I just know that from, like, fighting in the States. I'm like, how is that a split loss? It just happens so much. But you're like, you just gotta go. You just gotta go.
Tenacity has to speak.
Yeah. And I think that would be amazing. Yeah.
That would be you'd sit ringside to it. Now, if you could fight anyone, who would it be?
Who would it be?
Come a little closer to your mic as well.
My weight class?
Yeah. I mean, okay, let's play with this. So let's go yes for one, no for another.
Whoa. Like one with rules, one without rules?
One to be free and one to have rules.
Okay. I'll go with, like, rules first.
Okay. I had that one. Pegged. She's like,
no, actually it's harder. So yeah, let's be free.
Okay.
Let's be free. If I could fight anybody, just to be like, because I'm like, wow, I really want to, that would be an awesome fight.
Yeah.
Right now, or like from whenever.
Whenever.
I don't know, maybe, no, not Michaela Mayer. It's like so much taller.
Hey, screw it. I mean, maybe you set her down. Who knows?
I mean, maybe now because she had to take a loss.
What about Katie Taylor? This is what I'm thinking for
Katie
you.
Taylor.
I mean, not to steal the thunder, but I was like, Katie Taylor.
It will be interesting to see her come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's exciting.
She's
and talk about
exciting.
tenacious too. Like
those last 10 seconds.
Wow. And I mean, Amanda Serrano is formidable. That fight was incredible.
It was.
That fight
but
was
she did
incredible.
I think Amanda Serrano let her off the hook.
You think?
A little bit. I don't know whether she was managing her energy. Like, I don't know what the reason is. But
there were a couple moments
she
where
didn't
it looked
push. Like,
Yeah.
you almost knocked somebody out.
Yeah.
Like, you rocked somebody.
And you could tell her bell was wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And she needed, I think, 3 rounds to like, woo, I'm back now.
Yeah.
And I feel like Amanda was not pushing
Footing on
the
the
pace
gas.
after those 3 rounds. Yeah. Katie Taylor, she's exciting, definitely. Yeah.
I think that'd be a smoking fight. Yeah. We are so excited to have you on the card, and we're creeping down to the last few weeks of your camp. So what's kind of the one piece of sort of mantra you're kind of sending yourself as you head to this sort of, this finish line right now?
Be free.
Be free. Where, oofos. Oof.
Be free.
Nice.
It's on the board, they at Quinit, everybody has a board. I'm gonna go.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, everybody has like one thing they're good at and one thing they need to work on.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's on the board, yeah.
That's so cool. Okay, be free. I like this. River, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. We appreciate your time. You're fantastic. I love your energy inside and outside of the ring, and we're just really pumped to have you and making your pro debut with us. That means a lot.
Yeah, it means a lot to me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for watching this episode of the Empire Boxing Podcast. Subscribe. If you haven't, just do it. Oofos.
Make sure to listen, follow, and subscribe to Empire Boxing on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.